Every single week, over 1 million people die across the world. And today, we're gonna check out the unluckiest ones of all time, starting with the pool party.
The pool party. In 1985, 31-year-old Jerome Moody went to a pool party the city of New Orleans had thrown for its lifeguards. They were celebrating an entire season without a single drowning. Over 200 people showed up. More than 100 of them were certified lifeguards, and 4 were stationed on active duty at the pool that night.
So there's a pool party for the lifeguards who rescue people from pools, and I'm assuming someone is going to drown. How is that even possible? You gotta be extremely unlucky. Let's see how this unfolds.
There was food, drinks, and swimming. At the end of the night, guests started heading home. As people cleared out, someone noticed a body sitting at the bottom of the deep end.
What?
It was Jerome. He had been down there for hours while the party was still going on, and nobody noticed. Jerome wasn't a lifeguard. He was just a guest. The season without a drowning ended at the party they threw to celebrate it.
Wait, there's no explanation? I don't know about like everyone else's water in the world, but all the water that I've ever seen is see-through. It's clear. And if there was ever somebody at the bottom of a pool, I think I would see it. Not. That one annoys me. I need more info. I can only imagine that Jerome was killed. He was murdered. There's no other explanation. The next one is called the fish delivery.
Fish delivery. In 1671, Francois Fatel was hired to organize a 3-day feast for King Louis XIV of France. He was a maître d'hôtel, basically the head of everything: food, service, and entertainment. Around 3,000 guests were expected. Fatel hadn't slept in 12 nights preparing for it.
12 nights?
Things started going wrong. More guests showed up than planned, and 2 tables ran short on roast. That night, fog rolled in and ruined the fireworks. The next morning was a Friday. In Catholic France, that meant fish had to be served. Fatel woke up at 4 to check on the delivery. Only 2 small shipments had arrived. He asked the supplier if that was all. The supplier said yes, not realizing Fatel was asking about all the suppliers, not just him. As far as Fatel knew, the feast was ruined, and his reputation along with it. So he went back to his room and stabbed himself with his sword. Minutes later, fish deliveries started arriving from every port in the region. There was more than enough for everyone. The party went on without him.
The party went on without him? I hope they at least didn't know that he stabbed himself until like the day after, because like the dude who organized the entire thing, and then he died, and everyone still had the party. That is kind of crazy though, to stab yourself over something like that. Like at the end of the day, guys, you gotta understand, mistakes happen. And I get like that gathering probably had a big impact on his career, but to stab yourself over that, I mean, life is bigger than that, bro. Life is bigger than that. There's so much more. That stinks. So that guy was probably going through a lot. He was going through a lot before that moment. So I feel bad for him. That stinks. I wouldn't say that's unlucky though. I mean, I guess it's kind of unlucky, but this next one looks insanely unlucky. It's called the scarf.
On September 14th, 1927, 50-year-old Isadora Duncan was getting ready for an evening drive in Nice, France. Duncan was an American dancer known for performing barefoot in flowing robes and long silk scarves.
All right.
The scarves became her signature. She wore them on stage and off. The car belonged to Benoit Falchetto, a French-Italian mechanic. It was an Amilcar CGSS, a small open-top sports car with open-spoked wheels. A friend told Duncan to wear a cape because of the cold. She refused and threw a long, hand-painted silk scarf over her shoulder instead. Then she got into the passenger seat. The end of the scarf hung down low over the side of the car. When Falchetto pulled away, the trailing end got caught in the open spokes of the rear wheel. The scarf wrapped tight around the wheel and axle and yanked Duncan out of the car by her neck. The force snapped her spine, crushed her throat, and dragged her along the stone road. Falchetto hit the brakes within seconds, but she was already dead. Doctors later said she was nearly decapitated.
Oh God. Yeah, no, that's the worst one. That's bad. I don't even want to think of that. Adam actually just got a Jeep and he took the doors off and the top off, and we were riding it the other day, and I'm an idiot, so I was trying to touch the ground with my foot as we were driving. I never actually ended up touching the ground, but I got close. I'm not gonna do that anymore. I think I'm gonna not do that, do the whole trying to touch the ground thing anymore. That's probably not very smart of me. I'm not gonna do that. Next up, we have the orange peel. How do you die to an orange peel? Surely it's metaphor.
Orange peel. On July 25th, 1911, a man named Bobby Leach climbed into a steel barrel and went over Niagara Falls.
Must I say anything? This isn't unlucky. This is stupid. So far, at least. Where does the where's the unlucky part come out? If he just says and he died, I'll be like, yeah, you don't say.
The drop is 167 feet. He became only the second person in history to survive it. The fall broke both his kneecaps.
How many people have done this and died? Is it like a famous thing to try to drop down Niagara Falls in a canister and try to live? What is he even doing it for? Do you get like $1 million? What is the point? Is it just bragging rights? Like, what are we even doing, bro? The guy said he just broke his legs too.
Fractured his jaw and left him in the hospital for 6 months. After he recovered,
6 months?
Leach spent the next 15 years touring the world with his barrel, telling the story. In his
What's wrong
60s,
with this guy?
he went back to the falls and tried to swim the whirlpool rapids. He failed and had to be rescued. In 1926, while on a publicity tour in New Zealand, Leach was walking down Princes Street in Auckland when he slipped on an orange peel and broke his leg. The wound got infected. Gangrene set in and doctors had to amputate. Bobby Leach died 2 months later.
I can't, bro. I just can't. Of all the things that guy had been through, he dies by slipping on an orange peel. I didn't even know that was possible, by the way. I thought that was like a joke in cartoons that you could actually slip on a banana peel or something. But an orange peel too? Oh man, that's bad. That's pretty tragic. Next up, we have the tortoise.
The tortoise. A Greek playwright named Aeschylus was once told by a prophecy that he would be killed by a falling object. He took it seriously. He started spending as much time outdoors as he could, away from buildings, rooftops, and anything that could collapse on him. Around 455 BC, the 67-year-old Aeschylus was walking through an open field in the countryside of Sicily. An eagle was flying overhead carrying a tortoise. Eagles eat tortoises by dropping them from high up onto smooth rocks to crack the shell open. The eagle let go, and the tortoise landed on Aeschylus's bald head and killed him. He is still known today as the father of tragedy.
That story is so old that I don't know if I believe it. If it's true, that is outrageous. Next up, we have the chestnut tree.
In March 1938, a playwright named Odin von Horvath fled Vienna after the Nazis took over Austria and banned his work. He went to Budapest first, then made his way to Paris. Horvath had always been afraid of storms. A few days before his death, he told a friend he wasn't so afraid of the Nazis. There were worse things to be scared of, he said. Things you fear without knowing why. On June 1st, 1938, less than 3 months after arriving in Paris, the 36-year-old Horvath was walking down the Champs-Élysées when a thunderstorm rolled in. He stepped under a large chestnut tree to wait it out. Lightning struck the tree, and a heavy branch came down on his head and killed him. He died directly across the street from the Théâtre Marigny.
That's tough, man. I've heard of people dying to like trees falling before. That's pretty unlucky. That's pretty much as unlucky as it gets, honestly. Nothing you can even do. That is one of my like irrational fears or whatever you want to call them. I have a couple irrational fears. One is when I turn on the oven that the whole thing is just gonna explode because it's one of those older like gas ovens that like when you turn it on it like starts creaking and cranking and I just feel like it's gonna explode. Two is I forget. I was thinking about it the other day, so there is another one that's similar to the whole oven thing, where I just feel like every time I do this... What is it? What is the one thing? I don't know. I can't remember. But number 3 was going to be that a random tree would just fall on me out of nowhere and I die. Next up, we have the alarm clock.
In the 1880s, a lamplighter named Samuel Wardell had a problem. His job required him to be up before dawn every morning to put out the street lamps in Flatbush, New York. But Wardell was an exceptionally heavy sleeper, and a regular alarm clock wasn't enough to wake him, so he built his own. He connected a wire from his alarm clock to a shelf above his bed and placed a 10-pound rock on it. When the alarm went off, the shelf would tip and the rock would crash onto the floor next to his bed. The noise was loud enough to wake him every time. It worked perfectly for months. On Christmas Eve 1885, Wardell hosted a party and moved the furniture around to make room for guests. After the party, he went to bed without noticing that his bed was now directly under the shelf. The alarm went off at 5 in the morning. The rock didn't hit the floor. It hit Wardell. He died a few days later on New Year's Eve.
That's some Looney Tunes way to go. And that's how I could see myself doing that. Because I'm very forgetful and I'm also really dumb. And you combine the two and something like that happens. Like I would be the kind of guy to use a rock as my alarm clock. And I'm also the kind of guy that would move my bed underneath a rock and then forget that I did that. So this is totally a way that I would die.
The jockey. On June 4th, 1923, a stable hand named Frank Hayes finally got his chance to ride in a real race. Hayes had spent years training horses at Belmont Park in New York, but what he really wanted was to be a jockey. His boss agreed to let him ride a mare named Sweet Kiss. There was one problem. Hayes was too heavy. He had to lose over 10 pounds in a single day just to be allowed to ride. He jogged for hours, barely ate, and stopped drinking water. By the time he climbed onto the horse, he was light enough, but he was weak. Sweet Kiss was a 20-to-1 long shot. Nobody expected her to win, but she took the lead on the final stretch and crossed the finish line first. When the owner came to congratulate Hayes, he was slumped forward in the saddle. A doctor looked him over and said he was dead. He had suffered a heart attack somewhere during the race, and his body had stayed on the horse the whole time. It was his first and only race. The horse was nicknamed Sweet Kiss of Death and never raced again.
That is a wild story. Oh my God. That must have been all over the news at the time. Yeah, no, I looked it up. It's totally true. Whenever we watch these videos, like, I know that all these stories are true, but sometimes I just don't believe it. I had to look it up, and it's true. It's a real story. 22-year-old kid. Being 22 and having a heart attack is crazy. Wow, poor guy. That's super unlucky. That's even more sad too, because this was a kid who was like chasing his dream. You know, he finally got the opportunity that he wanted for so long. He did everything that he could to finally be able to ride this jockey. He lost 10 pounds in one day, and finally he's able to do it, and he gets a heart attack and dies, man. That breaks my heart. That's probably not what the analogy I should use, considering this kid had a heart attack. I probably shouldn't say that breaks my heart, but it just makes me so sad. That's awful.
The poodle. On October 21st, 1988, a poodle named Kachi fell from a 13th floor balcony in Buenos Aires and landed on a 75-year-old woman named Marta Espina, who was walking on the sidewalk below. Both died on impact. A crowd gathered to see what had happened. A 46-year-old woman named Edith Sola stepped off the curb to get a closer look and was hit by a bus, killing her instantly. Moments later, a man walking out of a nearby pharmacy who had seen both of these things happen went into cardiac arrest and died in the ambulance on the way to the hospital. The dog had been chasing a tennis ball.
That was a three-piece. That was a three. All three of those are just so unlucky. That's the most unlucky one, because they got three people. Bang, bang, bang. So unlucky. Dude, I feel like I should start being scared for me to just die out of nowhere. Like, I feel like my house is about to collapse. Oh, God. The Wrong Turn. What is this one?
Wrong Turn. On June 28, 1914,
my brother's birthday,
Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the next in line to rule the Austro-Hungarian Empire, was riding through Sarajevo in an open car with his wife Sophie. 6 Serbian nationalists were waiting along the route to kill him. The first one threw a bomb. It bounced off the car and went off under the one behind them. The cars sped away, and the other 5, including a 19-year-old named Gavrilo Princip, never got the chance to act. The plan had failed, and the group scattered. Ferdinand went ahead with his visit to City Hall. When the mayor started his welcome speech, Ferdinand cut him off and said, "I came here on a visit, and I am greeted with bombs." But he stayed. Afterward, he wanted to go to the hospital to check on an officer who had been hurt by the bomb. His driver, who didn't know the city well, turned down the wrong street and stopped the car to turn around. He had stopped right in front of where Princip was standing. Princip pulled out a pistol and shot Franz Ferdinand and Sophie. Both of them died within the hour. 5 weeks later, World War I began.
Wait, was that why? Was that was that like the start of it? Like, I know a decent bit about World War II, but to be honest, I don't know much about World War I. I know so little, actually. I'm gonna write that down. Watch documentary on World War I. Okay, I'm writing that down. I just feel like being a human on this planet in the modern day, we need to know our history, and the fact that I don't know really much about World War I should probably study it. There's a 3.5-hour documentary that just popped up, and I'm gonna bookmark that and check that out at some point. And I'll keep note. Like, was that the starting point? Was that the little tilt that needed to happen in order for World War I to officially start? Seems like it. Next up, though, this one is way more modern. In 2013, it's called The Cow.
In 2013, a 45-year-old man named João Maria de Souza was asleep in bed with his wife in Caratinga, Brazil. Their house was small and sat at the bottom of a steep hill where local cattle roamed. That night, a 1-ton cow wandered off a nearby farm, walked up the hill, and stepped onto the roof. The roof gave way, and the cow fell 8 feet onto de Souza's side of the bed. His wife wasn't hurt. Neither was the cow. De Souza was taken to the hospital with a broken leg and died the next day from internal bleeding. It was the 3rd time a cow had fallen through a roof in that area.
I don't even know what to say. I've been doing YouTube for about 15 years now. I do not know what to say about that. I was gonna say that's the unluckiest one, even including the 3-piece that we had earlier. But the fact that it's happened before to other people, then I'm starting to think, well, why were there no precautions put in place, knowing like it could happen? But then at the same time, it's like, well, what are the chances, First of all, that it happened. Second, that the cow lands right on you. Oh my God, man. I would be so mad. I would be, for those last few hours that I was alive, I would make sure I ate that cow. I would tell my son, I say, son, do me one favor. Find that cow, put him down, and let me eat him up for dinner tonight. And after I do, I'll have my piece. Wow, that's awful. That's insane. I don't even know. I don't know what to say. Next up, we have the tram.
On June 7th, 1926, a 73-year-old man was hit by a tram while crossing the street in Barcelona. He was knocked to the ground and lost consciousness. People nearby looked at him and assumed he was a beggar. His clothes were worn out, his hair was a mess, and he had no wallet or identification on him. 2 men tried to get him a taxi to the hospital, but 3 drivers refused to take him when they saw what he looked like. A 4th didn't even stop. A police officer finally forced a 5th taxi to pick him up. He was taken to a charity hospital for the poor and given basic care. It wasn't until the next day that a chaplain from a nearby church recognized him. The man was Antoni Gaudí, the most famous architect in Barcelona.
I was actually in Barcelona not too long ago. He's like really famous in Barcelona. Like he built a ton of architecture there that is still very popular today. Like he's actually a famous person. What? I didn't know this is how he died though.
And the designer of the Sagrada Familia. By then, it was too late. Gaudí died 3 days after the accident.
Oh my God!
Thousands of people lined the streets for his funeral. The taxi drivers who refused to take him were found and fined.
Oh, that's crazy. I don't think that taxi driver should have been fined. Like, bro, they didn't know. They should be allowed to, like, decline people from entering their car. That's pretty silly. But I feel like the police officer could have taken him, too. If it was that serious, the police officer's job is to protect their people. If somebody's hurt, and dying, who cares about a taxi? Put him in your car. You take him. You should be fined, too. That makes me angry. Oh, my God. No, but that Gaudí guy, like, he's the real deal. Over in Barcelona. I can't believe that's how he died. I didn't know that. Wow. Next up, we have the funeral. No. Wait, this guy looks like he's coming out of the casket. Tell me, like, that someone wasn't having a funeral and then, like, actually wasn't dead. What is
2011, a 49-year-old woman named Fagiliu Mukametsianov collapsed at her home in Kazan, Russia, with chest pains. Doctors at the hospital said she had suffered a heart attack and declared her dead. 2 days later, her family held a funeral. As mourners prayed around her open coffin, Mukametsianov opened her eyes. She saw where she was and started screaming. The shock gave her a real heart attack.
Oh my God!
Her husband rushed her back to the hospital, but she died 12 minutes later. He later said they could have saved her.
I'm gonna have a heart attack watching this video. Some of these like are insanely unlucky, but then other ones are just so stupid. Like just stupidity happens. I know in the last one I said like those people shouldn't have been fined. In this one, they should be fined. That should be malpractice from all the doctors that said that she was dead. Are you kidding me? Bro, how can you be a doctor and declare someone dead who's still alive? They should be sued. That's crazy. That's so bad. No, that makes me so mad. This was not supposed to be like a ragey video. Maybe I'm just a ragey person. That maybe I need to come to terms with that, but like this makes me so mad, some of these ones. This one's called The Cigarette, May 22nd.
1867, 18-year-old Archduchess Matilda of Austria was getting ready for a night at the theater in Vienna. She put on a long gauze dress and while waiting to leave, lit a cigarette. Her father had strictly forbidden her from smoking, so when she heard him coming, she hid it behind her back. The lit end touched the gauze. The dress caught fire instantly and burned her back, arms, neck, and legs before anyone could put it out. Matilda died 16 days later from the burns. She had been set to marry the Crown Prince of Italy.
Oh my God, she was gonna be the queen. Oh my God. I feel like a simple stop, drop, and roll there though would have done the trick. I'm not saying she didn't try, like maybe she tried and didn't work, but like in my mind, if you're on fire, a stop, drop, and roll, or like a quick little like, whoa, let me take all my clothes off real quick. But yeah, I guess not, dude. That sucks. What a terrible way to go. That's probably like the worst way to go that we've seen so far. The other ones have been unluckier, I think, but that one was probably the most painful and horrifying. Oh, I don't even want to think about it. Next one is called The Escape.
On July 28th, 1980, 32-year-old Troy Leon Gregg was sitting on death row at Georgia State Prison for a double murder. He was 2 days away from being put to death. That night, he and 3 other inmates sawed through the bars of their cells and through a window, climbed along the outside ledge to a fire escape.
Fun fact, in Germany, if you escape prison, then you're allowed to go free. They can't like rearrest you for what you did, which I think it personally is pretty crazy. That doesn't make any sense to me, but it's a fun law. Like that's pretty fun.
And made it down to the ground. They had changed their prison clothes to look like guard uniforms. So when real guards stopped them on the way out, they told them they were doing security checks. The guards believed them and let them through. There was a car waiting in the parking lot, and they drove off. Hours later, Greg walked into a bar in North Carolina and got into a fight. He was beaten to death. His body was found the next morning floating in a river. Nobody was ever convicted of killing him. The other 3 inmates were caught 2 days later.
I don't feel bad at all. That's also not unlucky. That was the worst one yet, but like not in like a traumatic way, in a way that wasn't even unlucky. First of all, he killed 2 people and was in jail, so I don't feel bad that he died. Second, after he got out of jail, he went to a bar and got in a fight. You pretty much have to choose to get into a fight. That is not unlucky. I mean, it's unlucky that he died because it's not common to die from a bar fight, but like he put himself in that situation. I don't feel bad at all for him. Next up, we have the opera. It looks like it's gonna be another heart attack. Oh boy.
The opera. On January 5th, 1996, 63-year-old Richard Versal was singing at the Metropolitan Opera in New York. It was opening night of an opera about a woman who had found the secret to living forever. Versale was playing a clerk in the opening scene, singing from the top of a tall ladder. A few minutes in, he sang the line, "You can only live so long." Then he had a heart attack, fell from the ladder, and landed on his back on the stage. He was dead by the time he got to the hospital. The audience thought it was part of the show.
Oh, wow, that's pretty bad. That sucks. Yeah, that sucks. That's terrible. That's like the worst time ever to have a heart attack. There's never a good time to have one, but that, if you being on top of a ladder is certainly not a good one. October 13th, the pig.
13th, 1131, 15-year-old Prince Philip of France was riding through the streets of Paris with a group of friends. Philip was the son of King Louis VI, and his father had already crowned him king 2 years earlier. They were moving fast along the River Seine. Suddenly, a pig came running out of a pile of waste on the side of the road and ran right between the legs of his horse.
No.
The horse was going too fast to avoid it. It tripped and fell forward, and Philip was thrown over its head. He landed on his head, never woke up, and died the next day.
Oh my God,
his father
that's
passed
so
a law
bad.
banning pigs from the streets of Paris.
I wonder if is that still a thing? I'm not seeing it when it pops up, but that would be funny if like there still is a ban of pigs on the streets of Paris because of that incident that happened so long ago. Next up, though, we have the ashes.
On the night of March 15th, 1731, 62-year-old Countess Cornelia Bandi of Italy wasn't feeling well. She had dinner with her family, then her maid helped her to bed. The two of them talked and prayed together for about 3 hours before the Countess fell asleep. The maid shut the door and left. The Countess had a habit of rubbing brandy all over her body to help with aches and pains. She had done it again that
Brandy?
night.
Like brandy? Like, isn't that alcohol? Yeah, that's alcohol. I'd never heard of anyone rubbing alcohol on themselves. That's strange. That's probably not healthy.
There was an oil lamp burning in the room. The next morning, when the Countess didn't wake up at her usual time, the maid went in to check on her. What she found was a pile of ashes on the floor about 4 feet from the bed. 2 legs, still in their stockings, from the knees down. 3 burned fingers. And part of a skull. That was all that was left of the Countess. The bed hadn't burned. The furniture hadn't burned. Nothing else in the room had caught fire. Just her.
I wish I hadn't heard that story. That one freaks me out a lot. I don't like that. If you didn't know, alcohol is very, very, very flammable. So she lathered herself up in very, very, very flammable liquid and had a candle next to her at night. Not a good recipe. I don't want to think about it. Next up, we have the stairs. January 24th.
January 24th, 1556, 47-year-old Emperor Humayun was coming down the steep stairs of his library in Delhi with his arms full of books. He heard the call to prayer from a nearby mosque. Humayun always knelt the moment he heard it, no matter where he was, so he tried to drop to his knees right there on the stairs. His foot caught in his robe and he slipped, fell down the steps, and hit his head on a stone edge at the bottom. He died 3 days later. He had only been emperor again for a few months, after spending 15 years fighting to win his empire back.
That was one dedicated man. He couldn't even take 3 more steps down the stairs. That sucks. Let me know which one you guys think was the unluckiest of them all, because I can't decide. And if you want me to watch more videos like this, leave a like, hit that subscribe button, and click right here for more.